Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Scuffed Podcast, ran by two goofy teenagers. The content of our episode today is to talk about our alias for our high school is Bugatti, and I think it's good to talk about our unique traditions and just a little bit of our experience coming from those.
Yep, this is your co-host Dean, and we just feel like these certain traditions of ours is very rare in other schools, and then just how traditions are definitely a good part to know a school, and we figured that this would be the best way for you, our audience, to understand Bugatti and I guess also just the bigger impact that it's had on our lives.
So, to kick that off, let's start with something that we like to call Fine Arts Night. For all 7 years of your education at Bugatti, because we are a middle school and high school combined, you have to play a string instrument. And before you even start your time, you do whole entire fitting day and everything. But every year, twice a year, I guess, you do something called Fine Arts Night. And with Fine Arts Night, it's everyone doing a recitation of their music that they played that semester. And every single grade does it. So the winter one, which is about to happen next week, or I guess this week, is split into 2 nights. But that's done at a local high school. But then in the spring Fine Arts Night, we do it on a professional stage that a Philharmonic plays on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is. They get us really nice spots, especially with the one where the Philharmonic plays at. Like, that's always a special time to go into, I guess, the bigger part of the city and the place that we live at. It's always just a good time and just to see the lights and then going out to get ice cream or food at some small shop, and it's always a great time. The Winter Fine Arts Night is a bit less refined since this building isn't as big, and so it has to be divided up into 2 nights, and they normally split it up into relatively the same categories of just one group here, etc. I guess we can just start out with some stories from Fine Arts Night, and yeah, we can just continue on from there. So I'll let you have the first one.
So I think to start out, there's not too many things in my mind. The one at the local high school, like Dean said, is nothing too special. If anything, it's more of a nuisance just because we have to worry about it. I mean, it can be kind of fun, especially if you enjoy playing, but it's a smaller venue, and there's not much doing anything afterwards. Like, I remember one time I grabbed Chick-fil-A with my granddad afterwards, and that's about the extent of what you do after your Fine Arts Night. But the one in the spring is so much fun because it's on this big venue. There are a lot of different people coming from, a lot of different parts of the state, and, even some out-of-state people I've had come and see my performance, and it's a lot of fun. And that is kind of your magnus opum, especially for us seniors. You do something very famous and very big that night. But what's interesting about the spring one is that it's a combination of the juniors and seniors. And that can either be a very good thing or a very bad thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So what it either leads to is you have one homogenous group of juniors and seniors playing a beautiful piece. And then typically our seniors in front and juniors in back, just to give your final year seniors a good hurrah. But it's also a bigger orchestra, which means a lot of weaker links can be present. And that can also just mean the junior orchestra isn't as talented, which can lead to even some nights. I remember last year for us, my family isn't all too musical. My mom plays guitar, and that's about it. When my dad and people realize that something is off about the music you're playing, that's when you know it's not exactly the best.
And your dad is so oblivious.
Oh, my dad doesn't know anything about classical music. I mean, he knows some and he listens to it, but very recreationally. When your dad comes to you after the performance, like, did it all go well? And you have to say no. That's when you know something's a little bit off.
Yeah. It also Fine Arts Night. It definitely highlights the bigger part of the orchestra or the string orchestra part in our curriculum, but it also highlights several other things like poetry. Even though mostly nobody really cares about it, it is kind of cool to see sixth graders just absolutely get nervous on stage and just freak out that they're performing in front of a lot of big people on a very big stage. They also highlight McLaren's art, and I am not very good at art, but me and Etty have some friends that are just spectacular at arts, quite frankly, and it is really quite impressive on what they can do. And so getting to see all the art displayed, and especially in such a big stage with a lot of people all over the place, it definitely is a really fun night, and it definitely is one of the brighter and best parts about Bugatti, for sure.
Just to dovetail off of that, just a shout out to a friend of ours. She got the best in show out of all the pictures. Something else to mention about Bugatti is our dedication to arts. We do a lot of arts, and also along with seeing orchestra, it is called the Fine Arts Night for a reason, not just a recitation. Because during Fine Arts Night, you get to see all the results of judged art. So 7th, 8th grade, and then 11th and 12th grade, you do art. And you get to put forth a piece or several pieces that you enjoyed from your time doing art, and then it's judged professionally. And then sometimes you'll get, I believe it's 1st through 3rd, then there's 2 honorable mentions. The highest I ever got was honorable mention back in 7th grade. But a friend of ours won the best in show last year, and that was just really impressive. But something to mention is the pre and post Fine Arts Night traditions. So before, especially the Spring Fine Arts Night, you get driven over there by a bus, and then you get to, get a layout because it's all not orchestrated, but it's all planned out how everyone's going to move, where everyone's going. Because
there's so many stories behind that bus as well. We'll get into those later on, but
we'll get into those. But then you also have to have your before performance hype up moments. So sometimes that's music, but then there's always a little ritual that we have, and that's always a lot of fun. But afterwards, it's almost always ice cream. And ice cream is so fun, especially in that part of town. There's several different ice cream joints, all of which are just delicious. But there's one to mention, and I won't say the name because we're not sponsored, but it is a very special ice cream shop that does wild flavors. And not wild, but how they present it. There's one flavor that always comes to mind. It's chocolate ice cream, but then they have a peanut butter core in the middle, and then they cover it all with Reese's, and this thing stands probably like a foot high. It's just something else to see, and it's always something to look forward to afterwards.
But yeah, I guess we've explained, Fine Arts Night pretty well. I guess I've got a story to start off in the middle school years, and this is at the less renowned place at Winter Fine Arts Night, but this is the, first time where I truly was excited and felt to be a part of a community. 7th grade, there was this guy. I'm not going to dox him. I'm just going to call him Leo. But Leo, my gosh, he's pretty much the class clown in our grade, and he did a very infamous just a random comedic skit and it was so simple, yet it was so funny at the same time. It was called like the time, where it was like saluting the flag time, shaking time, playing cards with the boy time, and it was just really, really, really funny for whatever reason, and everybody was laughing, and it just felt really fun to be part of that community. And so I guess that's the first story that really came up into my mind, and that's kind of just how I think that was one of the biggest it's also just the biggest community growing experiences, as well as getting to play with other people. So I definitely experienced it that night, and just had such an infamous comedic skit.
Something to say about Fine Arts Night, as much of a daunting thing it could seem to have to play in front of easily a couple hundred people, but it is so much fun. And once you do it, because they start you out from 6th grade playing on that stage, you get used to it. And there's something so relieving about seeing all your work hopefully come together in the very end.
Yeah.
This Fine Arts Night, there is one piece, which is called Die Valkyries, and it is part of an overture. And everyone has commented that it is going to be, well, I guess I'm going to say it, so scuffed. And because it is there's so many, true. Everyone's playing something different, and it's hard to base where you're at on other people, because it's so fast, and it's just not that uniform. I mean, it should be, but how we play it, it is not. We had a recital where everybody got together and, just practiced it. And my goodness, it was a mess. Everyone was ending off on different places.
So scuffed.
Everyone was just, it just sounded like a bunch of notes being played all at once. It was so rough. And we got to perform that piece in 3 days. 2 days if you're counting just school days. And so that's just kind of something that's going off of recent times. But every single year, there's always some sort of scheduling error or some sort of issue. 10th grade in particular, I think this is all a rumor, but who knows? Let's just consider it truth at this point. The bus drivers quit on the spot due to how poorly everything was managed. And we weren't really supposed to have classes for a specific allotted time. That was the time we were going to be at the Philharmonic and be able to put all our things down and, set everything up. We didn't get on those buses for, I think it was 2 or 3 hours. So I just remember talking to a math teacher who I love dearly, but we also just played a lot of games on playground equipment that's not even supposed to be used by high schoolers. We actually were able to get in trouble for it, funny enough. And I just remember everyone was talking about, okay, what's actually going on? Why aren't we there yet? And it was like, yeah, the bus drivers quit. And that was just something so wild because it was pretty much a free day. It's already kind of a free day, but
yeah,
we literally didn't do anything that day until we actually finally got there 3 or 4 hours later. By the end of, I remember we were coming home or coming back to the school, and all the parents were there, picking everybody up, etc. And that was just a funny moment of Fine Arts Night memories.
And I remember with that instant too, there were so many rumors. I think the most popular one was that he quit on the spot due to how poorly everything was managed. But there was substance abuse of just where bus drivers weren't able to work. Some dude fell asleep because he was being overworked. There was just so many rumors. Hardly any factual evidence to base it off of that. It was just some kids were spreading that around, and it just spread so freaking fast. So we have no idea if that's true or not.
We never got confirmation. All we ever heard was late, but I do find it strange that they are 3 to 4 hours late on something where it's just driving kids around. So who knows what the actual historical truth was, but that was just a funny thing. But also every single year, you're bound to happen to have some sort of mishap on the night itself or during the performance. And there's always some sort of reworking, or maybe you have to come on a couple minutes late for whatever reason. I can't think of any in particular off the top of my head, but it feels like every single performance there's always been something going wrong. Trying to think of what else.
I guess speaking more on the bus, Bugatti is more infamous for not having a whole lot of field trips at the school, and so it is kind of funny to see just like all the middle schoolers being so excited to be driven by like a regular school bus. Is just like, it really is nothing special. Although in later years, or more recent years, they've actually gotten some pretty nicer buses to carry, like, for your string orchestra, you got basses and cellos. To carry that, they have got some really nice buses, and those are always fun to ride in because you feel like you're like a Hollywood star or something. I don't know. There's just a lot of funny miscellaneous moments. I think
the funniest thing to be said from the buses, apart from the delay, was just the traditions. Because, like Dean said, Bugatti has next to no field trips at all. And COVID did impact those somewhat, but even then, they were just very few and far between. And there's always, we'll heckle the bus driver or heckle the teachers. And Bugatti, we are unique, and we're not allowed to have our phones with us. Some people will just flat out pull their phones that they're not supposed to have. And we always take a similar route. So you'll sometimes see a Chick-fil-A or something, and you'll just be like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, can we go to Chick-fil-A, or start heckling the bus driver? Hey, turn this baby around. We need to go Chick-fil-A. And it's always just so funny to see what we do on those buses, because it's always so random. And, of course, there's singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, etc., etc., etc. But
thank God we don't do that anymore for high school. Those are so annoying.
We always just are so random and heckling everyone. Or I remember sometimes we'll even try to get the attention of, if we're at a stoplight, try and get the next driver or that person to look at us, and we'll wave at them or whatever. It's always so stupid, but so funny. Well, Dean, do you want to move on to clans, or are we?
I think there's a couple more stories that I was thinking about for Fine Arts Night. I think the one where we trashed the bus with a bunch of trash. I think that was a Fine Arts Night bus for middle school. And then I think there was also I'm trying to just see what other good after party stories there are.
I'm trying to think. Well, just while Dean's thinking, talk about the trash incident. So there's an iconic symbol or just iconic item that we always think of when we think of the trash incident or the bus incident, and it's a banana. And we always blame it on this one banana. I believe it was in the second grade, as my co-host said. And we are all, because I think it was during our lunch period, so we were allowed to eat then or something. And someone, us being immature, 7th grade, started throwing a banana at someone else. And it was almost like the cheese touch, so you try and throw the banana to get at someone else. And by the end of the, not that long of a bus drive, 15-minute bus drive, it was all brown and disgusting, and people kept throwing it. And, you get hit, but we left it on there, and I'm sure with other wrappers and trash, but we blamed it on that one banana. And for a whole entire week, we had to clean the school, and I remember each individual person, even if you didn't touch the banana, you were guilty by association in this instance. You had to write a personal handwritten letter to the school that owned the buses. And that is such an iconic moment, and we still even reference it today, even though it was, 5-6 years ago now.
it was so stupid as well. Because even just those who never took a part in it, either only watched, didn't notice, or didn't care, you still had to write a handwritten apology. Like, you had just, like, graffitied, like, vandalized the school bus, and you just, like, had to, like, somehow make it sincere enough for the school to be able to, like, send it. Yeah, it was really stupid.
Yeah, and I can't recall, so take this with a grain of salt, but I remember I think the biggest issue was, since our school is a charter school and Bugatti can't get all the funds that certain public school have, so we don't have like a bus system really. Yeah, I can't remember what the school was, but I don't think they saw the condition of the bus, and they refused to let us, or let the school use those buses again. So I think that was the entire rationale behind it. But that is always just such an iconic moment for us. I guess did you have any more stories in mind? Or
I think that was it. Yeah. Those ice cream places, like we've mentioned before, just a lot of fun to go to.
And you're on a hot stage, and you also have to dress up for fine arts night, and it's the same thing for everyone. Black pants, white shirt, black tie. You have to wear black socks, like they'll crucify you otherwise, and black dress shoes. It's very simple. And then the girls have a bit more decision. They can wear pants or a dress, but even then you have to get in like specific measurements and everything. But that's about the end of the Fine Arts Night discussion. Next off, a big part of Bugatti are clans. Think of it, and funny thing about Bugatti, we're not allowed to make a lot of pop culture references in the classroom. And the only way our clan, the head of the clans, can actually describe it is she describes it every single year as houses from Harry Potter. But so there's 20 different clans, and there used to be 10, I want to say, at Bugatti, but I can't remember if that's the exact number. And when you are either first transferred to the school or in 6th grade, which is more likely the case, you are sorted into a clan, and you stay in that clan for essentially all of your Bugatti life. And with that, each clan has pretty much a few people from every different grade. And what's fun about it is it's a competition. So there are 3 field days throughout the year. 2 are indoor, or 2 are outdoor. 1 is indoor, and they're more like intellectual games for indoor. Gotta love Bugatti. And the funny thing is there's always kind of a steady trend between all of them. And I am personally in the Aztecs. My co-host here is an SPQR. The Aztecs have won what we call the Philosopher's Cup. It's called the Philosopher's Cup based off of a Monty Python skit from the 90s, I want to say. And it's a pretty funny thing. And there are 20 different clans, like I said. And you compete, have competitive games on field days. But you also have like donations and everything. And my clan we've been able to hold ourselves. We have won 2 times. My co-host here, on the other hand, to throw some shade on the SPQR, which, by the way, is the Roman army. Is that correct?
It's the acronym. It's a Latin acronym, Senatus Populusque Romanus, which in Latin is the Senate and the people of Rome. So it's pretty much the Roman Republic.
Okay, well, good to know. And each of the clans is either historically based or based in classic literature. But to throw some shade on the SPQR, they are notoriously bad. On field day, the highest they ever got was 2nd place. And
I feel like that's pretty good. Most of them, compared to some other clans, that's more than they can say.
Yeah, that's true. I remember back in middle school, though, it was kind of assumed who was going to be in last place. It was either I think it was either the Oaken Shields, the Rascals, or SBQR. They were already kind of the bottom tier. But they've somewhat pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. But the funny thing about clans, much like NFL or anything like that, is there's always going to be the accused cheaters, or there's going to be the ones who are assumed to be good and are going to win. Aztecs have kind of come in and out of that, of being either cheaters or good. Like, we've been able to keep a somewhat steady pace on, not top, but high on the food chain. But the notorious one is always the Narnians, which is based off the Narnia series. And they've also won twice, so, in some ways it's hard to say. But every single field day, they're typically in the top 3 or, 4. And we always accuse them of cheating, much like, we did with the Patriots and Tom Brady or something. And I always just find that funny. And I remember, I believe it was the second time they won the Philosopher's Cup, because we have a final clan meeting where everyone stands up and then they announce the places and you all sit down. And I remember it was, I believe, in 10th grade when they last won it. And we all everyone pretty quickly started yelling, "Overrated," which is a very common beat, and it was so funny. And everyone got so mad at all the students because we started, not being good sports about it. Yeah. And that was just such a funny moment.
Alright, so I guess it's time for me to explain how crappy my clan is. So basically, there's been a lot of, we're like trying to be main characters, whatever, like sport team you think is like they're going to make big moves and they're going to be like flashy and stuff. That's pretty much the equivalent of my clan. I think my clan isn't known for cheating, but we just complain and be our way to victory. I guess this year is just not the year for us, but I guess 7th through 10th grade, I think, was we were last every year, and so the common chant was SPQR, last place, that's who you are. It definitely was tough, but it's kind of like you're now part of that losing situation. You kind of expect to lose at that point, so whenever you win a game, you're like so shocked and happy. I remember in 10th grade, we played a relatively like lower tier clan called the Philosophers, and it was very close, and we had beaten them in tug of war, and it was like down to the wire, and it was high school guys versus high school guys, and everybody was pulling, and we somehow managed to win. And that was the only, and keep in mind, this was the only win we had gotten this entire field day, yet we treated it like we had won the Super Bowl or the World Series. We were so happy that we had finally won a game in like the past 3 years. So keep that in mind. But there's been a lot of lore stuff to my clan that I can explain somewhat, but it's kind of complicated. But I'll just let Etienne talk about his perspective as a winner.
So, as the Aztecs, we have won twice. And we are typically an upper tier team. We're definitely not like the best, but we're definitely a good contender. And we're typically a more feared clan. We are named after the Aztec Empire. And we are also a very rambunctious clan. We have this very big, one of our chants literally just about sacrifice. And we do a lot of yelling. The funny thing about the Aztecs, though, is yes, we are a very good physical team. We have a lot of good, higher tier athletes. Last year, we lost a very, very gifted soccer player, and he's now at an Ivy League. He is just A-tier student, S-tier student. But the funny thing about us is we are always so low tier for our indoor field day, which again is all about intellect. And it's always so funny because I remember both years that we won the Philosopher's Cup. We got last place in the indoor field day, which is just kind of never heard of. Typically, you always place well to get first place, but we're always kind of notorious for getting either last place or somewhere around there for indoor field day. And from the top, it is definitely always like a very fun competition. I would say our number one rivals are the Narnians. We are always kind of put 2 and 2 together. So it's always a fun matchup to see during field day or any sort of competition. The Narnians against the Aztecs. And I would say a victory against the Narnians or one of those high tier teams is always so gratifying and so satisfying. And I think the last time I actually remember going against them was in kickball. And I remember I was very close friends with one of the leaders of the clan. And I remember I was dogging on her so much. I was like, oh, yeah, you ready to lose later today? And it ended up being a tie. But I remember I somehow struck her out. Like, I just threw the ball weird, so she always kicked under it or kicked over it. And I remember that was so funny, just talking about it. But another thing to mention about clans is typically there's 1 or 2 associated clan teachers, which help navigate everything. But then the seniors are always kind of the top dogs. You lead the clan, get them to do extracurricular events, you do all those things. And then the juniors are also considered clan leaders, but let's be real here. They don't have any actual power. I'm the only senior, and I think there's 3 juniors in my clan. They don't have any say. They all listen to me. But people like me as a leader, apparently, somehow. Another thing to mention about clans, you are awarded points for, like I said, certain events, which are such as donations. We had one recently where we were donating food. And that's always so gratifying because it's not only a high point thing, but you're also helping people. It's fun to see that your own clan is doing well and helping the community. But you also have Pack the Stands and Pack the Theater, where Pack the Stands is when you go to a home game and they typically award clan points.
Root for the home team, yeah.
Root for the home team. And that's a lot of fun. I mean, Aztecs are typically on the upper tier for participation in those things, which is always good to see. And Pack the Theaters for drama. Dean and I recently finished our drama performances this week, which was just a lot of fun, and it's kind of sad to see it all go. But I'm glad it happened, and I think that's just a good thing.
We'll probably talk about the other arts and the stories behind them, like art and drama. And we'll talk about the stories we've had from those experiences at Bugatti. I guess I can talk about the story about how my clan was very close to winning it all for one field day. We were feeling really good about ourselves for this year. Fresh new start. We've got a couple of good seniors. And so this year was the year that we had gotten our really big banner. So we were flashing it all around. It was like a big SPQR with the Roman reef. What is it? I should really know this as Laurel. Yeah. But it was massive, and like we're confident, and we've got flashy, and we're going to be new and different. And like this field day, it proved it to be so. And however, we were doing really well. We had won all of our games. We had done really well on the challenge packet. We had beaten some good clans like Berserkers. I think we had also. Fates are kind of always in and out, but they're the more fluctuating. But I think they were good that year, and so we had beaten them as well. And so we were confident we were going to get first. And yet, as they read our names, we were just so confident it was us against the Narnians. And the Narnians still somehow won. And it was very frustrating. And it was very sad. And you could tell everybody else was rooting for us to, beat the Narnians and be the like upper dogs that like took down the big bad wolf, and then nope, we just fell short, and everybody else was booing them, but it was tough to see. And that was kind of, and then that's how far my clan got, and then we kind of fell back down to earth.
Another thing to add about the SBQR tradition, upon their great banner, they have Peppa Pig, and there's always the debate between one of our friends, which is the real Peppa Pig, and which one was replaced. But we're kind of running long on time, so I think we should move on to our next topic of discussion. Fruitcake weather. This will be a pretty quick one, but it is a very, well, as it is called, right now is fruitcake weather. It is snowing, and the holiday season is upon us. And what fruitcake weather is a short story that is read over the course of 3 days by one very specific teacher. And his name is Mr. He is the loveliest of human beings, and he is very nice and makes reading and literature funny. But I've heard this story pretty much every holiday season for the past, I guess this will be my 7th year, so 6 years. And it's always just such a joy to hear, and when he's stepping up to give our morning assembly, you already know what he's going to say. It's typically he'll give announcements or something. Then he's like, do you see that out there? What's the weather out here? And it's fruitcake weather. And everyone is so enchanted by his voice and how he reads a story. And it's something that I honestly want to pass down, or at least get a copy of that story, just because it is such a lovely tale, and it's become kind of part of my holiday tradition. But let's see what Dean's.
Yeah, I guess, T, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think he started saying that every year when we were 6th graders at Bugatti. So that was really cool, and so I guess with this week coming up on the time that we're recording this episode, he's going to say it, and this will be the last time that we'll be able to hear it, so it will definitely be very bittersweet. But yeah, it's a really beautiful story, and like, we could probably recite the key parts just off of the top of our heads right now. For those listening, I'd highly encourage you to read it, or at least read a part of it. It's a really nice Christmas story. But it really is like a wholesome experience, and it's a wholesome tale, and it's read as Eti has described to Mr. Alvarado, just a very kind human being, and he is a really good part of the leadership at McLean for sure.
Yeah, it's an enchanting tale, and it's always heartwarming to hear, and it's just funny, sad, it has all the right emotions, and I don't know if he wrote it. I think it is just someone else published it, but
yeah,
it's become very associated with him. And yeah, like Dean said, I would highly recommend for you to find it. I believe it's on the internet, and it's just become kind of enriched in Bugatti's traditions. That's about all to wrap up fruitcake weather, and that's a short part. But the final big part about Bugatti's traditions is something called Leisure Day. And Leisure Day started in 7th grade, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And Leisure Day was initially started because our principal got a award for, I think maybe the entire school was awarded essentially the best in the district or something, which is pretty high. We're a relatively newer school. So it was initially founded to kind of celebrate her. And why it's called Leisure Day is not only are you taking a bunch of classes that are just typically fun to learn, there's nothing too straining about learning it, but it's also based in the initial Greek word, which blanking on me now since I haven't taken my Greek in about a year. But it's based on the Greek word for leisure, and because that word is also associated for learning, and I think it's maybe in skolos. I can't remember. But it is based around that, and it's a lot of fun classes. I remember my first Leisure Day, there was one class I wanted to take, and it was with an awesome teacher. I can't remember his name now, but it was a class that was taken up by all the juniors and seniors since you kind of get preference to choose your classes first. And there's only so many places per class. And one junior, I think, dropped out, and it was when they were announcing it while I was looking at that class. And I put my name in there, so there are a bunch of juniors and seniors in there while I was a little 7th grader. I sat by myself, but it was such a fun class because it was about old film, the progression of film, and how it's aged over the ages. And now every year, it's on a nondescript day, so it's always a surprise. I remember Dean actually missed the first leisure day, and I was explaining it to him.
I was so confused.
Well, I think it may have been over Roblox because I didn't have a phone at the time. Something. I can't remember how I communicated to him, but it was over some sort of media.
Unboxing Simulator was wild back in the day.
I think that was like the first game I really played with Dean much. Yeah, but so I remember leisure day, and then every subsequent year there's always been something similar where the teachers all have their kind of niche classes that they teach on. And sometimes it can be from taxes 101 to the history of tanks to how to juggle to just, basic historical topics or talking about previous careers that they had. But let's get Dean's.
Yeah, so I guess, as Atia had mentioned, I had missed the first one. So I was very confused on what it was, but I could tell, like, everybody really enjoyed it. And definitely frustrating because probably I was just sick or something. But I forgot the reason why I had missed it. But I guess my initial take was that it was just a lot of fun. I guess the progression of it has been that we got to see we got to choose our classes at the beginning, but with COVID rolling around and it just being unsafe to mingle people together, I guess, they reverted to a system where your teachers themselves would do it and they would have something fun. And while not to diss on them, they had like fun stuff. It was cool to be able to choose your own classes since most of our classes are pretty much mandatory and you don't get to choose them.
Yeah, the only thing you choose at Bugatti is the language that you take. So from middle school and 9th grade, you take 4 years of Latin, or in total 4 years of Latin. Then 10th grade, you take a full year of a new language. I chose Ancient Greek. Dean does German. But then they also offer French and Spanish. And then the first semester of junior year, you take a semester of your language break. Senior year, you don't take your language first semester. And then second semester, your last semester at Bugatti, you take your language. And so it's kind of weird. You go a year without your language, but it's all right. I enjoy it that way. But yeah, you get to choose your classes. And last year they reverted back to it. I think the coolest class I ever took on leisure day was either tanks, and it was done by the same math teacher I mentioned earlier in the episode. He is just a joy to be around. He's since left school. But I also remember our chemistry teacher taught us how to make electromagnets. And I always remember that was such a cool thing to learn. And it's so random. And I think some people still have it. But essentially we had like battery pack, wiring, solder iron. And then you got like a screw. And then you'd wrap it around and create a little electromagnet. It's funny to test because some people had really good ones that worked really well. Then some people wouldn't even pick anything up at all just because it was so weak. But leisure day is just a very common Bugatti tradition. It's like everyone tries to figure out, okay, what time will it be? Because I remember last year, typically it either takes place like April. They did it all the way back in February, and it was just, it's always such a fun thing to look forward to, and it's always so fun to do. And they reverted back to their original system where you chose your classes last year. But it's just a fun time and a unique thing that Bugatti does that I think is honestly just a very joyous thing.
Yeah. I think also something funny to mention, between me and Etsy, I think last year was the first year we were officially at the whole thing together. We've missed it each year for miscellaneous reasons. I think there was one year where you came late for like a couple of ones, and I think that was the one we did the tank with.
Yep.
Yeah, I was the tank one, and that was a really fun lecture to listen on to. But it is kind of funny that last year was the year that we've had it, and so I don't know. Well, since I have family members that work at Bugatti, they normally have some clue when it goes on, but they try not to tell us. But I think freshman year, COVID year, was the year when I knew it, where it was. But yeah, it's kind of been a very fun tradition, taking fun classes. Getting to hear from different teachers is always cool, or teachers that you used to have but haven't had them for a long time is also really cool. It's always pretty much it's always a fun time, and getting to compare classes with each other at like each class period is always fun.
Well, unless you have any other point. Oh, actually, yes. Let's talk about just a quick recent news thing, and so it's fresh in our minds. This week, breaking news at Bugatti: someone broke through the roof or the ceiling, and I wasn't there, so I'm gonna have to let Dean kind of clue y'all in a bit better. But just from my perspective, I remember, so I was sitting in my calculus class with the worst teacher ever, and we just heard this massive thud, and we were like, what in the world happened? And from what I heard, there was all like a premeditated plan to kind of prank the physics teacher, but stupid seniors who can't think for themselves didn't realize a drop ceiling couldn't hold a person, especially him, who he's not larger, but he's just a lot of muscle, and then is a heftier person. And he broke through the roof, and then I remember I was talking to my physics teacher after the whole incident. I was like, what went through your head that moment? And he said a lot of profanities. And when I walked in, I said, what in the world happened? So he caught himself about to say WTF, and it's just funny to hear. But Dean was there when it all happened, so I'm going to lead it off to him.
Alright, so I'm going to have to start using a bunch of aliases here. Let's see here. So I guess the plan was, I guess to give a little context to why we thought that this was going to somehow work, was I'm going to call him Butch, since that's his nickname as well, at I guess school as well. Butch, he's an adventurous guy, to say the least, and he has done a lot of questionable things. But he's also kind of just like, he somehow survives it, and he just seems unaffected by it. I guess quick example is just like, there was an instant where he just slipped and fell like hard on concrete, where it just made a big smack, and yet like he just walks unfazed, and he's quite the impressive human being. He goes and climbs through the bathroom at the school, and yet it's a modular, so it's a room completely separated by the from the campus itself. So it uses different like water facilities, electricity, that type of stuff. But there's the walls that block the ceiling, so you just can't go from the bathroom through the ceiling anywhere else. And so he thought like that would be a funny way to prank our teacher. And he's climbed through like the entirety of the bathroom through the ceiling multiple times. And so we were just like, okay, surely the ceiling's the same in the bathroom will be the same in the physics room. And so we originally tried to do it where he got on somebody's shoulders and then climbed through, but it just never got to work out. And so I guess I'll call him Big Mac. And then Leo, actually the same guy, Leo was just like, yo, just climb onto the black cabinet and then push the ceiling off and then get onto it. And so it was actually a smart plan. So it was kind of premeditated, where we got another classmate of ours to get Big Mac outside of the classroom to just like discuss physics and his grade and like how does he think he's doing in class, and just like the normal like student teacher conversation. And basically there's not a whole lot to it. He climbed through it, and it's all recorded, and we have multiple, and I have the same video saved on multiple things, so in case the school ever catches us, it will be saved and preserved. But he basically climbs through. He stays in there for like 15 to 20 seconds, and then his weight just has the ceiling just fall through, and a corner of the entire ceiling is just gone. And then the lights are busted. The metal workings in that ceiling are busted. I made a whole GoFundMe to help raise money because it was really stupid, and it really wouldn't have been funny if somebody had legitimately gotten hurt, because ceiling falling on you can really freaking hurt. But nobody got hurt. He was fine. He ended up having to serve a suspension, which we consider to be pretty light, and then had to pay for like the damage, of course. But other than that, that's pretty much it. But it was hilarious, and definitely something that will go down in legend. And it happened this week, so.
Yeah, so that's breaking news of this week, and I'm sure we'll be back here next week with another episode, hopefully, and maybe we'll get some more breaking news then. But for the time being, I think this was a lovely video, and see y'all next week.
Thank you for watching.
Have a good week.